All right, so we are going to learn about certain concepts associated with circles. In this particular video, we're going to identify five basically lines and line segments. So 5 lines slash segments that are associated with circles, okay? And to start, I want to remember or recall what a circle is, features of a circle, and then I want to briefly review lines and line segments. Okay, so let's talk about what is a line. Okay, let's recall that a line is basically just a two-directional set of points, and it has arrowheads on it, and it goes forever, infinitely in both directions, okay? And so this goes infinitely that direction and infinitely that direction, okay? And so if we usually define a line by 2 points, and let's say that these are points C and D, and then we name it, we would name this line, and we'd put the arrowheads on it. This says line CD. Okay. All right. So what about a line segment? Well, a line segment is like a piece of a line. It instead of having the arrowheads, it just has a starting point, which we call actually an end point, and then another end point. So a line terminates. It has a limited distance. It does not go on forever. And if this is, let's say that this is point A and this is point B, we would say that the end points of this line segment are A and B. And a line segment is defined by its endpoints. So we would say, we would write the letters A and B, and we would put a line over top that does not have arrows, and this means line segment AB. All right, now let's talk about a circle. A circle basically is just an infinite set of points, going around well, we call it an arc, okay? What's interesting about all of these points, now I'm only drawing a limited number of points, but there are actually an infinite number of these points along the circle, and every one of them is the same distance from one other point, and that one other point right here we call the center of the circle. So all circles have a center. Now the center itself is not a part of the circle. The circle is actually just the points, okay? So all the points that run along around the circle, that's the circle. The center just defines the circle because every one of these points is the same distance from the center, okay? And that distance from the center is called the radius, okay? All right, so all circles are defined by their center and by their radius. Now these are the 5 lines that are associated with a circle that we're going to define. We're going to define a radius, we're going to define a chord, a diameter, a secant, and a tangent. You probably already know what a radius and a diameter are. You may or may not know what a chord is. Maybe you've never heard of a secant or a tangent, but we're going to define all of these right now. All right, so we're going to define a radius first. A radius is a line segment, okay, so it doesn't go on forever. It has endpoints, and it has one of its endpoints is the center of the circle, and then the other endpoint is on the circle, okay? So here you can see the center of the circle is point P, and that's actually how we define a circle, is by whatever the name of the point is at the center. So we actually would call this circle circle P. So this is circle P, okay? So circle P has this radius, and it's a line segment that runs from P over to this point C on the circle. This is one of the points on the circle. And so there's a line segment that goes from the center of the circle to the point on the circle, and that line segment is called a radius. So in this case, we would say line segment PC is a radius. Okay. Now we actually could, it doesn't have to be PC, we could actually write it as CP. It doesn't matter which letter goes first, so we can say PC is a radius or we can say CP is a radius. All right, so now let's define a chord. A chord is a line segment having both endpoints on the circle, So you can see here we have point B is on the circle, point A is on the circle, and then there's a line segment that runs between A and B, and therefore this is a chord, okay? And so we would say line segment AB is a chord, okay? It's a chord of circle Q, okay? Just if you're not sure, you can basically pick any point here, even right here next to it, right? And all you have to do is run a line segment from that point over to the other point, and there's another chord, okay? So there can be basically an infinite number of chords. All right, now let's see what a diameter is. Well, now that we know what a chord is, basically we can say a diameter is a chord. It's a very specific chord, okay? It's a chord that passes through the center of the circle. So you can see here, this is circle M. Here's point R on the circle. Here's point T on the circle. And since point R goes, since the chord between point R and point T goes through the center, the point M, we can call RT a diameter. So line segment RT, which is a chord, is a diameter. Okay. So we can say that it's a chord, but it's a very specific kind of chord. Because it goes through the center of the circle, it's actually a diameter. So if you're asked a question, if you're given a picture that looks something like this, and you're asked what it is, you could, obviously it is a chord, but the correct answer would be that it's a diameter. Why? Because it passes through the center of the circle. Now let's identify a secant. A secant is not a line segment, it's actually a line. Therefore, it goes on infinitely in two directions. And so this particular line right here is defined by the points G and H. And so what we have here is line GH. But there's something interesting about lines G and H. G and H are both on the circle. Okay, and so that's what a secant is. It's a line that passes through 2 points on a circle. Okay, and so because point H is on the circle and point G is on the circle, and this line passes through G and H, you'll notice that on one side the line is outside of the circle, then for a little while the line is inside the circle, and then the line passes outside the circle again. And so that's what you see with a secant. A secant is outside, then it's inside, then it's outside, because it has to cross over one point to get inside the circle, then it crosses through another point to get outside of the circle. And so here, line GH is a secant of circle D. All right, so the last one we're going to talk about here is called a tangent. Now I know you've heard the word tangent before with respect to angles, the tangent of an angle. But this is not that that application of the word tangent. This is actually a kind of line related to a circle. And it is related to the tangent of an angle, but not in what we're learning today. Okay, so this line right here is a tangent. A tangent is a line, and so it has arrowheads. It goes infinitely in both directions. It's a line that passes through only one point on a circle. So here's point X. It's on the circle. And in order for the tangent to go through only one point on the circle, it has to barely touch that one point. Notice with a secant went through the circle, right? It had a portion where it was inside. Well, the tangent never goes inside the circle. The tangent always stays outside of the circle, and it passes through only one point on the circle, okay? And that is a tangent. And that's it for all of the lines associated with, lines and line segments associated with circles.